It's 8 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to the Ramsey County Commission in order. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from last month's meeting, or last meeting.
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any corrections? Not all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Bills. I think we have a list of bills as well as some additionals. Everybody's got the time to review those. Any questions?
Kevin, do you know if them two handheld radios that will anticipate the sheriff order are like $22,000? Is that correct? That was $75,000?
Those two radios are, I'm sure those are crazy numbers. Well, that's probably right. Maybe Chris knows.
Yeah.
That's right, they're pretty high.
And that's the first two we bought.
Yes.
They'll hook up to that siren project and at the law enforcement center.
Yes, sir. Yep.
So we're looking at buying more.
A lot more.
I think the legislators have money in a bill to help the, outlying areas, smaller ambulances and stuff.
Yeah, there's a small group that's available for reimbursement, but they have to fit the bill. So one is fire department, ambulance, and I think law enforcement. But the writing wasn't thorough, we'll say. They gotta fix some stuff, which they're trying to change right now.
So in total, it's 4 radios. 2 handheld, 2 in-car. But still, that's an awful lot of money for 4 radios.
I'm looking at the awful expensive what we talked about.
Any other questions on the bills? As submitted?
Move to approve.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to pay the bills. Roll call, please.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Lightcon,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Volk,
Aye.
Brett.
Aye. Motion carries. Financial reports.
We're good for the first month in.
Move to approve. Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the financial report.
Yep.
Roll call.
Volk,
Aye.
Lightcon,
Aye.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Brett.
Aye. Financials are approved. Treasurer's checks.
Move to approve.
Motion
Second.
and a second to approve the treasurer's checks. And roll call.
Lightcon,
Aye.
Volk,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Brett.
Aye. Motion passes. The approval of the agenda. Been some changes since last Thursday or Friday. Updated the agenda.
Move to approve.
seconded to approve the agenda. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Sarah here? Here she is. Thank you for coming.
I don't know where you guys want me to.
I think right up here at the front would be best, that way
I know there's a big pole
I
there.
think our microphones will pick you up better for
Okay.
the audience.
Sounds good. Okay, so, just a little update from Ramsey County Extension. Our roundup was it's actually a pretty big success. We've just been digging into the technology, and our pre-recorded sessions, we were able to pull those up. We had about 2,200 views on our pre-recorded sessions. And the live registrations on our live day, we had 270 registered for that. So we're very happy with our roundup. Our 4-H, in the 4-H world, our shooting sports, air rifle, has been going really well. That goes until the end of February, and we are hosting the state match, which is March 27th. However, that'll be a coastal match, which means that all of the shooters will compete at their home range and then send in their targets to us. Our archery program, we are going ahead with archery, and that will start in March, and we are almost all full with all of the spots. That was a pretty popular event for us. Our 4-Hers have been doing amazing work with community service. Around Christmas time, we put word out, we needed about 40 blankets to go. We had been asked by CHI Hospital for our 4-Hers to make some blankets to put little care packages together for the area foster care kids. And our kids did so many blankets, we had way too many extra. They made 80 blankets, so we had blankets for the foster care kids. We sent some to a mission in Fort Cotton, and then area kids at some of the schools received some blankets as well. So that was a great project. A couple of our clubs did some food baskets for those in need around Christmas time, which included like a full turkey meal. They did a great job with that. We had some Salvation Army bell ringers, and then we recently had a 4-H council meeting. We decided to go ahead with our big fruit and candy fundraiser, so you may be asked by some of our 4-Hers for that wonderful fruit. So that's still going to be happening. It's a little bit changed with COVID, but we're making it work. And then we're excited to say that we've got our Achievement Days schedule set. Our horse show will be June 23rd. Livestock Expo will be June 26th. And then our static exhibits will be July 16th and 17th. And then they'll move on to, hopefully we'll have the state fair the week right after. So we've been busy up in Extension. And does anybody have any questions?
Any questions for Sarah? Sarah, I thought your roundup stuff was excellent.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it was very good, very informative. Went off without a hitch. I participated in both the live and the pre-recorded stuff, so yeah, very nice.
Yeah, we were able to get a lot of good feedback, a lot of good survey participants, so we've been digging through those, so, yeah, we usually don't get a lot of surveys back, but this year we got about 95 surveys, which is great, so it's good to have that information for us.
Nothing else? Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate you coming in. Jeff, Elizabeth Black. Thank you.
Just a quick stop by. I always bring you the agricultural value assessment from the state when they send it to us for the upcoming year. And as you can see, we're just shortly out of compliance for this upcoming year. It looks like the total would be 710.80, and we're at 639.25. On the side, I did calculate just approximate average acre if we did a 2% increase or a 6% increase on that. And this year, I was just kind of curious, I hadn't kept track of this. And so Steve went through the minutes for me, and we were able to come up with just a quick synopsis of what we've done in the past 10 years for value changes. And you can see there were a few years there that were pretty hairy earlier. I definitely don't want to get back into, I mean, I'm hoping to really never get back into something like 26% increase again, but I definitely feel that I'd like to see us keep moving forward so we don't ever have a year where we have to do something more drastic. Last year with the zero change, it ended up being really, really, really close. Nerve-wracking. We did make it work. I'm pretty sure Steve was sick of hearing from me for a couple of weeks in it, but it was too close. So that's why you don't see a 1% on there, because with acre changes and rounding from one software to another software, from the state software to Excel to all of that, it was just too close. And none of this has to be decided for the June meeting, so I just wanted to bring it in and talk that with you. And if you have any questions, you can now or throughout the next couple months stop by our office and call.
Any questions for Beth today?
Can I ask one quick one?
Sure.
You know, the agricultural land value is supposed to float with production quality,
Right.
with total production in the county in terms of dollars. When are we gonna start to see, you know, it's a 10-year Olympic average, correct? When are we gonna start to see some of those really big years from 2008 to 12 start to fall off? And start maybe equaling value out, or maybe you can slightly bring it down?
Sure. The best answer I have to give to that, because as you know, everyone says that the way industry calculates this is so complicated. I went and asked the actual person that is the one calculating it, and he said that barring catastrophe or something that maybe really would change the whole environment, we'll continue to see a slight increase in our different values continuing on no matter what.
I want to watch a number on how they do it, it's
Yeah,
quite
oh,
complicated.
I've been brought into a meeting here before.
It makes sense, but it's
Yeah.
quite complicated.
Beth, what do you think we need to go up then? Apply.
Well, you know,
All-
I always recommend
all-
95%,
You wanna go to 95?
but, I definitely would be happy at 2 and above. You know, and like it shows, we really have not, you know, 2015 was the last time we were 5%, but other than that, it's been pretty minimal.
What, is the state a year behind or 2 years behind, really, in actual values? So what do you got?
I guess I don't know exactly what you mean, on that.
You use figures from not last year,
Right,
before, right?
Yeah, I would guess they probably have 19 values because they, excuse me, they have to have the whole marketing year and then all the dollars figured out in terms of total value that was derived from the land and the county, I suppose, so it's gotta be a year at least, I would think. I mean, that's just a portion of how the formula works. I mean, it goes into sales price, it goes into a lot of stuff.
Oh, man. See you in June, right?
Sorry about that.
See you in June.
I'll be here second Tuesday.
Anything else for Beth this morning? Have anything else for us?
No.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good day.
Ramsey County Water Board, Snake and Clear Project. Brian, you wanna?
Our package this morning, you guys, check the front page, and that will be the main focus of what we're doing this project around Coastal Nelson County, guys. Fire Township, in particular, the lead of it, we do is running cheap water, roads over there, and pretty much non-existent to work. Whenever we have heavy rainfall or water episodes, this is pretty much using some of the data provided to us. We use LiDAR on the route through the water and go, pretty much like the snagging and clearing to clean this road out, get just a leak over there, so it's the road back. And with, spending every dollar these townships have on road repair. So far, the support for the project has been pretty amazing, considering guys are looking, asking the tax to help themselves out. We do have signatures of support for this, and there's no action required for this, but we did ask the locals to show that we have local support for this. It isn't us pushing this project. It's everybody on the ground over there that's doing it to us. I found it's, there's no downside to what you're telling us. Water board has approved our resolution of necessity. That's what we're receiving today. Information that asks you to approve the resolution of necessity, so we can decide to declare clause to clean this water, or drain out of this watershed. Tax landowner at 50% or 50-cent assessment. I think our estimate was roughly $70,000 to $80,000 to get us through the majority of this. So all we paid, landowners are directly affected by it.
So you said 50 cents an acre?
Yes, that's by century code, that's maximum you can assess through a standing declarative project. So it'll take 4 to 5 years to pay this back. But, the cost of each person is really pretty phenomenal. Figure out the estimate is $6,000 to $9,000 to clean a mile of ditch. Got that pretty substantial acres to be able to do irrigation on its own. The cost of what will get done through this project. We've been in contact with Fish and Wildlife. They're in, and they're as supportive as you can expect Fish and Wildlife to be, but they're willing to work with everybody to, we're not digging a new ditch, we're not digging deeper in the ditch, we're just cleaning out what is already there.
The only question that I have, this waterway, this ditch flows into Ramsey County, right?
Yes, it goes through 2 townships in Ramsey County.
Sure. I mean, and for the people that know water pretty well, I mean, there's no chance that we're going to be flooding out a Ramsey County farmer by doing this?
This water will, help me out if I say it wrong, but this water does go directly into the sump lake. We are cleaning out a little bit of fish that's not in our assessment, just to make sure that we still get flow all the way through and it doesn't hurt anybody and bother them. So I think we've covered most of the bases on that, that we're not going to hurt anybody. We're not changing any of the culverts, so anything that's there is already going to be limiting the flow of this. We shouldn't be opening up the flood, it doesn't allow a lot of water to come at once.
What's your projection days on doing it? When are you gonna start? When are you gonna be done?
The guys would be willing to start as soon as we can get enough authority together to start. They would be digging tomorrow, it would be really okay. So as to how long it'll take, if we get the first stuff done up to Highway 2, we have here fairly soon. That'll help out immediately right around Highway 2 where there's a pile of water. After that, they'll dig as they can. These contractors kind of estimating that they'll dig up toward the slough. Let the water, sheet water, will flow out of it. They may be able to go back in, maybe just a month or 2 later, and clean some more of the cattails into it. So I would say the majority of the digging, whether cooperating, will be done midsummer. You guys would think?
The Nelson County Commission is aware of this?
Yes, they're made aware of it. We've been working with the Nelson County Water Board. That's who brought us in the group right away. Is it next week? You guys will go to the
This Thursday.
Thursday?
Thursday, what?
Thursday, this will be presented to the Nelson County Commission.
So does this create an assessment district that's gonna stay there then? Or is it just a one-time deal?
As soon as the money that the contractor costs is paid back, this assessment disappears. what we would like to do in the future is encourage these guys to continue making, creating this into a true assessment.
I was gonna say, because I mean, 5, 6, 7 years down the road, it's gonna be, we don't know how that works, it's gonna turn around, you're gonna have to do it again, so it's probably worthwhile to
I'd
start
do
the
it
process of
immediately.
setting up a district, so you
I would do it immediately.
continue to stay.
That's, we were encouraging them that, their main focus is after that big rain last summer. And I think, he had said that, they had 0 functioning roads in Dakota Township.
Other than Highway 1.
Pardon me?
Other than Highway 1, and we had water over every road in our township.
So
There's a pile of
that's
shit
what's
over there.
driving the, resolution of necessity to bring it to this, so that we can hurry up and get something done, before we get a late season, snowstorm that floods them out again. Or another summertime project, or spring that goes through.
So this work can start before the public hearing takes place, correct?
From my understanding of it, yeah. As soon as the water board signs the resolution of necessity, you guys sign it. We are, the landowner input required on it, that we do have to have a hearing of the water board and the water board for comment. Just be one meeting, unless we decide to change our minds at that meeting, there's no further requirement for that time. This program was designed that there is a need that needs to get fixed in a short period of time.
How many hearings you have to have, you set it up permanently?
To permit, I think there's only one hearing needed for that. But to do that one, we would have to have a full engineering covering this, the costs and insurance. If this were estimating the costs with the contractor's input.
Basically, you're doing this without the engineering, and you're saying if you were to do it permanent, you'd have to have the engineer.
Correct. To do the full assessment, you have to have it all engineered prior so that the landowners can vote on the specific costs. And this we can use in the second and third century code, which is going to do. That's why we ask for the landowner input, the petitions. Just, we don't want to get into a project that, there's 5 or 6 guys really want it, but the majority don't. We're pretty confident in this project here that the locals are in support of this project right now.
You have good support over there in Nelson County League?
Yeah, we've, quite honestly, there's a lot of, Clare Township's never been vocal about too much water. We've gotten to the point to where we've lost even FEMA money over the years. I've only been a supervisor on the board for 5 or 6 years, where some guys that had been on it have been doing it for 40 years. And we've come to the point where Clare has lost even FEMA funds because we've rerouted FEMA funds to specific roads to save 1 out of 2 or 3 roads. And we're already assessing an additional tax every year on the landowners for additional funding for projects. We're at the point where we've spent all our FEMA money. We can't get any more FEMA money for some of these roads because we have to allocate those funds back to the roads to get more FEMA money, and we're taxing our landowners to the point to where we're out of money every year because we're trying to maintain the roads that are being washed out every year. So there's a lot of support. I speak for Clare Board, and there's a couple other Clare Board members here today as well, just making sure that anything that you guys need for information will provide. And yes, we haven't come across one person. Today, I have not come across one person that has said, gee, I hope this doesn't go through. There's a lot of support because it's needed from a traveling standpoint, and there's actually a few farm residences that are affected in this as well. I'm specifically one of them. After that 4-inch rain last spring, I was at the point of needing to just go start sandbagging my house. And I know there's about 2 other residences in the township that are in the same position. So we're at a point right now that the snag and clear is an immediate relief, and that's what we're trying to pursue. So.
Wheeler boys told me in 1993 they had 44 inches of rain after June 1. That country's been wet since then.
Yeah. Yeah. They also told me that I was kind of silly for living in a slough. They said I was kind of silly for living in a slough. And that's true.
So, there's one more question that I have. If we approve this now, is work going to be completed by planting season?
No, I think these guys would hope it would be.
I would doubt that all of it would be, maybe because the person we have in mind for using as a contractor had mentioned that he would like to stagger this event so that not all the water came at once, number one. And number two, he knew the correct spot. I mean, we can tell by LiDAR, obviously, with water levels, but once some of that water starts running, you might find a better flow path. So it might be staggered out a couple weeks at a time in his digging process. I don't think it'll take a very long time, but I don't know that we could guarantee that it would be done by planting time.
I just hope that we're not running over people's crops that they just put in, you know?
Oh, yeah, no, that's really, I mean, honestly, most of the pathway that we're concerned about is areas that are wet enough that there is not a farmland concern.
Okay.
So, my question is, if they stagger this, you're not gonna flood your neighbor out for a
Right.
2-week period when they can't get into their crop either, is there?
No, there's a couple crossings that are already in place today through this natural drain that there's already crossways where we would be, let's say, splitting a couple of farmland quarters. There's already culverts in place and approaches
So
to
that
get
we're,
to.
you know, you're all in favor of it now, and then all of a sudden they start this, and it doesn't get all done, and then you want your neighbor, one gains and one doesn't. You know, I don't want to see that either.
No, and one thing that we did have a pretty good reassurance was from the contractor that we're working with. He's got the technology that he can have in his machine so that there's almost 25 feet of drop in this project's snag and clear proposal, so that we're not all that concerned about doing that to somebody. So Brian had alluded to the fact that there was a couple landowners that were curious about making sure that they didn't have some overland flooding, and we'll make sure that that doesn't happen. We have up to $100,000 to spend on this project, so we're proposing $80,000. If it takes a $5,000 or $10,000 budget to make sure that that doesn't happen to someone, we will spend that money.
Brian, do you have all the signatures or a majority of the signatures from Bartlett Township?
Bartlett wasn't covered too well. Todd is here.
I would just call them around for these.
That's me.
I'd called around most of the landowners in Bartlett.
Yeah,
Most everybody's in favor,
you're all right.
but some people are just concerned about the, how deep is the ditch gonna be? And it's really just a clean out. It's not a big 8-foot ditch, but I think most people in the township are in favor of it. I mean, it's gonna be good for a couple of our roads also. It's a good long run, I think, for everybody.
Right.
What would you
So I
say,
would go with Grant.
township roads that are there, what size culverts would they have on, like probably 24s, 18s,
Yes,
24s?
they're not huge, but I mean,
So since we're not upgrading them, and we're not moving that big flow at any one time, we just can't get through these existing culverts. So it's one thing that helps keep this project fairly simple, and that we're fairly confident we won't be flooding even when we do over this, because the water can't move that fast.
So that's probably the reason behind staggering the project, so you're not flooding roads that are good.
We don't want to release so much water that has to go through an 18-inch culvert.
they're gonna start at the highway. That's needed to be cleaned up for 20 years. I mean, that Fenster Slough thing was the hold up there to it. Just couldn't get the water for the highway. Right.
Is there any comments, Kevin, you can think of county roads in that area that would be affected, or negatively or positively?
No, I don't think,
Just want to put that in order.
not exactly sure of that, but
We do have the larger maps in the back, and they're just the larger representation of what's in the packet. This gives you, it's kind of hard to understand, it'll just kind of give you the scope and size, and you realize your project, and the speed where you're at.
be a real good project.
Well, it was brought to us and, we have some concerns, to make sure it's done right. Our legal counsel gave us some tips as to what not to mess up if we go forward with it. It's fairly a simple project in our eyes. It's well needed in that area of the county. One thing we've had going on is at the Brockton area, there's been a water issue that, we have no solutions for it. The guys are having a lot of trouble. They're saying this water's coming from the south through Brockton up in the Lock Pool area. This is one of the things that we found, that if you can take this water from the south end of that watershed and move it away, it's not going to be coming up. We can start to separate those problems out and hopefully get some more relief for the guys in that whole eastern side of the property.
Right.
We've got the Edmore project that we're working on now. That doesn't directly affect this, but since the Lock Pool goes into the Edmore, it's something we always have to consider how they're tying together, which would really work best. This just gives us a first step in breaking the water apart instead of having to fight it all at once.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that Ramsey County approve and sign on to this resolution of necessity.
Okay,
Second.
moved and seconded that the Ramsey County sign on the resolution of necessity for work over in Hartford Township between Nelson and Ramsey counties. Any further discussion? If not, all signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Brian, as far as the public hearings involved, please try to coordinate with Candy so the commissioners can be involved.
It would work if we could try to schedule it kind of in conjunction with one of your regular meetings. Would that be sure to have? I think that would work. If that's what we'll work for, keep you at the touch with what's going on.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much.
Next item on our agenda, Mr. Jager, Emergency Management, Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Good morning. This is a multi-hazard mitigation plan that you guys, we actually earlier said to look at to figure out what contractor to use. So this is the contract from the contractor from KLJ, who is going to complete the work, and he would just like this signed so they can start the process of working on multi-hazard mitigation plan in our county.
And this is the one that we approved last February, I believe. I think we had Chris get us some bids from engineering firms to complete this work. The KLJ was the one that was selected. And the hazard mitigation plan has to be completed, redone every 5 years. And do it by the state.
Correct. That way we can keep keeping funding for being up.
Okay. We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second for discussion.
I think the total cost was $34,000.
When is that to be done by again?
2022. So, it's kind of behind the 8 ball.
Well, it says right here, 40 weeks from effective date, so 40 weeks before 2022. Looking good.
Looking great.
So the latest will be fantastic.
Any other discussion?
You don't send no money till it's done?
I believe that's how that one works. We got some in-kind money, if we can get a lot of people to participate, hopefully you guys are all to participate to get that cost out. So I believe we'll be at end of section 701, basis of payment using process is set for. Owner should pay the lump sum of 34,000, and then,
It says they're gonna, under 201, under payment procedures.
oh yeah,
So they're gonna monthly invoice us.
there you go.
Do we get monthly progress reports then?
You can certainly ask for those.
We should.
You think that'd be okay, Chris?
I think that should be fine. Keep me understanding where they're at with the process as well.
If we don't pay, they charge us interest.
Any other discussion on the agreement between Ramsey County and KLG for the hazard mitigation plan? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Chris. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin, you're up.
All right, you guys hear me all right here?
Yep.
Today to start off, we have an invoice, a couple of invoices.
Hang on 1 second.
Oh, sorry.
Crystal, would you mind closing the door, please?
We're gonna echo it all the way up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Going closer to 30.
We can leave that one open, Candy.
Yeah, I think she's just telling them that they'd like to speak, that's not a problem, just go to the first floor away.
Okay.
The final, couple of bills from KLJ for the final closeout on Ramsey County 2. I think Paul at the last meeting explained that you could send in the final for that, so that was done now. And also for the survey work for the bridge design on Ramsey County 4. So the total of the two invoices is $26,436.41. Just looking for a motion to pay that.
Move to approve.
Second. Motion and a second to pay the invoice from KLJ on closeout in Ramsey number 2. And design work on Ramsey 4, $26,436.41. Are we paying that today or we?
We are paying us.
Okay, and roll call please.
Volk,
Aye.
Lightfon,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Brett.
Aye.
And then also we have a coil spring break on our overhead door in the main shop. I didn't realize it was gonna be over $2,000 to get it repaired, but the final bill was $2,274.44, so I didn't get prior approval on this one, but this is to pay that invoice.
Move to approve. Second.
Moved and approved to pay the overhead doors in the main shop, $2,274.44. Roll call please.
It's on the list of bills.
Oh, it's on the list of bills.
Well, since it's over 2,000, I thought.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin.
Need to order some signs for our inventory. Most of them are 911 signs that are just to keep it stocked, but they're gonna cost $2,000, $2,004.14.
Second.
A motion and a second for Kevin to order some signs for inventory. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Kevin, those signs, you say 911 signs?
Mostly, yes.
So what exactly, where exactly are those? I mean, because you and I have had that discussion about somebody requesting a 911 sign on township road. This is something completely different on,
This is stock, that we put on the shelf. If somebody wants one, we take it off the shelf, put it in.
take it off the shelf, print it then?
No, it's already printed.
Okay. And what is exactly does it say?
Like 71st Street or 82nd Avenue or something like that.
Okay. And I thought, when you and I had that discussion, that we didn't pay for those, that was,
Well, we got a lot of them in the county system,
okay.
a lot of them. We put them on every intersection, on a county road, every intersection that gets maintained.
Gotcha. I had a question of somebody wanting a sign, coming off Highway 20, and they thought it was our issue. Kevin and I, after some discussion, figured out that it wasn't county's responsibility for that, but it was township or state highway or that individual person. Some places have them consistently down the highway, and others do not. Why it's not always consistent, I'm not sure, but.
Some of the townships have paid, put their own up, and if they come to us, we'll sell them the signs that are put up. I mean, that's part of our inventory, yeah. So I would say probably half of the townships have done their major intersections anyway.
Good to know. Thank you.
Okay, and then part of the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act, all the counties got some federal aid dollars put towards their projects. And Ramsey County is going to receive $74,248.31. And we have till 2024 to use that. And if we use it on a federal aid project, we don't have to go through Title VI and all the other hoops, but we can use it for a lot of other things as long as our Title VI is up to date. But I thought it would be best if we used it on either our bridge project or our inlet overlay next year. But that's just more informative today. No motion, no action to take today. That's how much money we'll be getting from that pot of money. Any questions there? Okay, and then the North Dakota Telephone is going to start putting up our security system today and tomorrow. They weren't there yet when I left, but that's going to be starting. We're going to start looking into putting sewer systems into 4 of our outlying shops. They don't have bathrooms in it now. They all have running water, but no sinks or anything like that. We figured it's probably going to cost about, well, the tanks, holding tanks are $850 each, 4 of them. And then the permit from health department is $400 for all 4. And then if we do the work ourselves, we can save a little money. And then just have they want a sewer contractor to do the work or inspect the work once it's done. So if we do it, we can save probably $5,000. Or if we have a contractor do it, it's going to be around $10,000 roughly. But right now, it's just kind of in a preliminary works. Just want to get your guys' input on what you think. This is a good idea, or?
Sounds like a good idea.
I think it's a great idea.
I'll be honest, when you sent the email, I was kind of amazed we didn't have bathrooms in the shops.
So, you know, with the code, is there something out there that they pay for some of this? Because you know, like you guys are doing bathrooms, I know like for us, they're paying for everything hand-free. So like the sink, the paper dispenser, things like that. It's probably something to check into. So that's just money out there that they're allowing because they want everything touchless.
Makes sense.
Not sure if they do a brand new system, but it's certainly something that we're checking.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to save some money, and that's why not. If If they don't, they don't. If they do, great.
So for now, this is kind of in the preliminary steps, but I'll just keep you guys up to date as it progresses on through. Then that last item is, I had $200,000 in my budget for a new plow truck, so I'm gonna start looking into costs of that. I think we can use the state bid for our truck, but I'm still checking on all that, so it's more informative than anything. I'll keep you up to speed on how that's progressing. That's all I have.
Thanks, Kevin.
Any questions for Kevin? Thank you, Kevin. Looks like we blew past, no, it's not 42. We have on our item executive session discussion on state's attorney position. And that was more for if we had multiple applicants, we could weed through them. Closing date was Saturday. We had one application. It did not meet our minimum requirements that we had put forward. So I don't think that going into executive session would be necessary. But leave it up to the rest of the commission.
What were they short on for application?
Years of experience, I believe.
It's either that or reopen the advertising, right?
Well, I think regardless of what we do is, if we decide to give this person an interview or put that person through to a finalist type of position, that would require opening up that position because they didn't meet, I think it would give that individual maybe an unfair advantage that others didn't apply for.
What you're saying is we'd have to lower the years of...
We'd have to lower the years of experience.
Probably to cover up, we probably have to.
Are you wanting to do this discussion now? Because I can show them kind of what Carrie suggested of it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do we want to do this now? Carrie has made some suggestions knowing that we did the project out. There are some concerns with it, just somebody bringing somebody in with not that kind of experience, you're probably going to run into more issues. So that's just something to think about. If you lower the experience, if you leave the experience where it's at, maybe something to look at is something in the salary. It's crossed out some of Carrie's suggestions.
Talking with one of our judges in the building, mentioned that we may have been a little low on our salary requirements. And so we could take a look at re-advertising with the same type of minimum qualifications and raising our salary, or we could lower our minimum qualifications.
Did we have a bet out? You had four and I had 3 apps?
Yes, we both lost.
Okay,
You were closer than me though. What, on the monthly salary standard, what does that put us at? If, say you're at the high end and that's 7208, what's that put you at on the steps, on the scale?
So that's the 1 through 5 years. Yeah. I think
I think you better open up that, just leave it open. Negotiate it. If you get an applicant that you want, you better leave the salary open.
should we just leave it dependent on experience and not put a salary in it? Is that what you're kind of?
You know, you have to have a starting point with negotiation.
You're competing with the private sector immensely.
Yeah, and I realize that. I'm not saying that you have a set amount. I'm just saying they have to know where they, some kind of starting line. And then if it is, if you have set ground, you want it to be open. Yeah, I agree.
Well, and there may be a shortage of attorneys. I know the legislature's currently looking at a reimbursement plan for attorneys to go to small communities in rural North Dakota, similar to what they do with medical doctors. Certainly doesn't help us now, but just to know that there may be some shortages there. I did print off a salary survey from NDACO, Association of Counties, for the state's attorneys and some of their assistants. You know, and certainly that top end of our salary range would be probably at some of these mid-range counties, about 86.
We can, size-wise, we probably fall into the mid-range in population. But workload, really low. We're in the top 5.
Yeah. Workload's extremely high. There was just about 1,000 cases.
You gotta leave experience open to it.
And you think,
See what we get. Right, Adam, what do you think?
I think it's reasonable to at least leave the experience open. I like the concept of opening up the salary range. I just don't know if we want to put a cap on it just so we have at least have a high end. I mean, even if we want to just, you know, I don't know where we're going to be at, but I mean, it would be, just so we have a range at least. But obviously raise it up so we got some more room to work with.
That's what I was trying to say, and have the range in there.
That's fine.
You
Well, I
know,
understand.
I'm not saying you have to start them out at that 64. You have that range, you have that cap range, you can start them at the top end if they're qualified.
What's like somebody like Walsh County paying their state's attorney right now? Is that on the salary scale? I mean, Walsh or Barnes or something like that would at least be similar size, but caseload obviously we're way higher. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
You know, we got probably extremely lucky last time we hired one. We took a first-year state's attorney. She had no experiences. You know, being a state's attorney.
Walsh is currently 97,000.
Yeah, they probably have some experience.
Yeah.
I bet you the workload isn't a fifth in this one.
I think Kerry said it's about a third.
Five.
You know, and there's some counties that don't have full-time state's attorneys because they don't have attorneys living in their county. You know, I guess we're fortunate in that sense that we have attorneys around, but
Could we put something on there? Keep or follow the recommendations from Kerry where we would no longer require the experience to make those changes. And then on the salary, put something like the low end 64.35 through up, and then DOE based upon county's step system or something like that. So that we would at least say that, so if somebody would, you know, at least we'd open up the salary range, but we would base it off the step system. Just so we know we have as much as we want then, but we can say, okay, you're brand new, but we'll start you at a 7 or something like that. You know, depending on what we feel it's gonna take to get the job done, to get something in here. I just wanna try to keep us broad, but at the same time, so we're based off of something.
What was your example? What did you say one?
No, I didn't say a figure necessarily, but, you know, like I would guess, so there's what, $600 worth of range between a 1 and a 5, so like, say you started at a 7, you'd probably be at 7,500. It's not a whole heck of a lot more in the grand scheme of things.
But I don't even know if that'll do it.
Yeah, I don't know if it will either. I think it's gonna take 95 to 100,000 a year probably.
Because the other issue you run into if you do that, right, is mentally they're going to peg the job as being, oh, well, they're saying, you know, $6,400 with a range that is based on experience. Well, I bet that's going to, in their head, look exactly like this already looks.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because you're already pinning your entry target.
So in other words, just cross out the dollar figure, put DOE, depending on experience based upon county stat system.
Great,
It's
I'll go
probably,
along with that.
And then we leave ourselves the flexibility to say, if we really like somebody, we think they're gonna fit the position, we can make an offer and set them in a step wherever we're comfortable with what we think it's gonna take to do the job.
When you're dealing with lawyers, there'll be negotiation, I imagine.
Well, if we're picking a good one, I'm sure there will be.
Been there, done that.
If they're not negotiating with us, we probably shouldn't be trying to.
So we
And
want,
I think the experience is leave it open.
Yeah.
Somebody walks out of law school with UND, I mean, who knows, it might be the best state attorney we can hire. Like we said just a little bit ago, the last one we hired, never been state attorney before.
Another thing to look at too, is like that experience wise. If you bring them in a little bit less experience, probably not gonna move on, because they don't have the experience to go to the next level.
Then we can lock them into being state attorney for quite a while.
And it's something to look at, you know.
Lock with their office.
with the judicial system as battered and bruised as North Dakota's, you never know when they're gonna be taken, which I think we just learned, you know? It's hard to keep a state attorney. But,
Well, it sounds to me like I think we have kind of an assumption on where we want to go.
There's all,
I'll make the motion then that we repost the position as stated upon the sheet, drop the requirements as suggested on this sheet, and then list salary as depending on experience based upon county's salary steps.
second,
and then there's just a little piece in there about, the relocation assistance. I put that in there. I don't know if that's something you guys want to consider. I think it's probably a good idea, but otherwise you're kind of limiting yourself to this area. I know that, like with the state, I think they go up to 5,000 for relocating expenses for higher up positions. I just wanted to explain that piece, make sure you guys are okay with that.
I'm comfortable leaving it at.
what did you say, Chris? Well, I didn't get any of it.
Oh, with the there's a piece in there on the relocation.
Okay, oh,
Yeah, and usually for the higher up positions, they offer relocation assistance. And I know the
okay,
state
I got it, yeah.
I think it's reasonable to leave that in there just because we can use it as a negotiation thing. Like you said, if it's somebody new out of Grand Forks or whatever, maybe out of state that's interested, you know, maybe went to law school or is from North Dakota and went to UM or something like that, a relocation fee could really help out. So I think it's reasonable, but something we can use to negotiate. I think we'll keep it. On top of the fact that, you know, we don't want this position to stay open for too long, so we gotta get it done.
Crystal, did you have anything else you think we should add or should be mentioned?
So it's good, and I think just a quick note on our salary step system. I don't know that, I was trying to get in information on how this, you know, when the salary analysis was done, but I can't find any background on it. So I don't know if this is compared to counties of similar size to us, or, you know, and not involving any private entities, and so I don't know if I would stick too much to the salary step system for this position, just for that mere fact that when you're recruiting, you want to make sure to recruit to your area and pull that market information from all different entities, so I just wanted to point that out. That's all I have.
And the dates you had on there, Crystal, those will work for the, as far as the closing date? Closing date of February 12th, 10 days from today.
Better stretch that out a little bit. Want to get ample time out there, I think.
Can't go at the end of the month itself, but I don't know, that's like,
Well,
how long do we want to leave it?
we don't want to leave it open very long.
Maybe we do another week.
20th, was it 20th anyway? What's the 20th?
Saturday.
Saturday, 19th, that work?
Yeah, that's fine. And
That'd be ahead of our next meeting, right? No.
No, it's after our next meeting.
Well, and that's kind of the thing, we either go through the 12th or the 13th, which would be that Friday, or you go through the 26th, because then that puts you up to that first meeting of March. that or we give it the extra week and have a special meeting. You know, if we wanna go through the 19th, we can meet on like the 23rd or something.
I know people are concerned about the load up there, workload, but I mean, we're gonna have to reach out to some other counties and see if we can get some help.
Yeah, and
And I think that would be acceptable to everybody, I would think.
and I was gonna stop up and visit with Lauren today, I'm not sure if anybody's done that, and just kinda
Sure.
see how she is with everything and see what, make sure she's okay with how things are going today, and then explain the process we're going through for looking out again.
Have you heard from her, Jeff?
I have not.
You haven't, Mark Woman, right?
No, I haven't.
Well, you haven't.
I haven't visited with her because I wanted to wait and see what we were gonna get today.
Okay.
Basically. And now that we're gonna have a little bit of an extension, I'll sit down, so we can make sure everything's okay and where we're going, I guess.
Want to leave us enough time to get apps, you know? We sure don't want to go through this again, which I'm not saying we won't. Howler has their own state attorney, and we reach out to them, or reach out to Benson.
I think the guy from Towner does a couple of counties,
You have a couple.
Towner and McHenry or something together, or something like that.
And I might be wrong, but I thought Carrie had mentioned she had reached out to these counties and they were willing.
She went to Tennyson, I believe, out in Nelson, and she was gonna talk to Jim Wayne about it.
She's got 2 or 3 counties already, right?
I think we ought to just, you know, take our medicine and leave it open until the end of the month. Just because otherwise, if we keep sort of starting, we might end up even later than that without anything to show for it.
I think I agree with that, because we don't want to be in this situation. I think you can buy now, if you're really going to buy.
So go to Friday the 26th for a closing date?
Adam, are you willing to amend your motion to that?
Yeah, I will.
Okay, then I'll keep my second.
And the salary range was what again?
Negotiable? What word did you use, Krista?
I put dependent on experience based upon county salary system.
Okay.
If you want
You're
to.
gonna put negotiable on the end then?
Well, I would say
That's what we're doing.
negotiable depending upon experience based on county census.
There you go. I like it.
So there's no actual range within there?
We can just put on there, we'll pay you whatever it takes, I will
Any other changes that should be made? If not, any further discussion on the motion? Re-advertise a position for a state's attorney. Crystal will get that all typed up and change it on our web and on job service and all the other formats that we advertised on. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Crystal. Unfinished business. COVID-19. Anybody want to bring anything up? Do we want to open up the building? Unlock it for,
I wasn't here when you guys put the Band-Aid on and stuff, but I believe what I've read, it said on there, once we go to green, the building is gonna go. We are in green in the state now. And I'm just putting that out there so that people don't get misconception. You know, I wasn't here when you guys had set that originally. But I don't,
You read that somewhere?
yeah, I thought you can go on and read it. And I'm just saying so that there's not a misconception with the people, you know.
Are you talking on our closure procedures or on the mass portion of it that we did for the county, or are you talking on the,
I think it was
the interchange over the?
I think it was the mask. you know,
I guess it's possible we did that, but I don't recall.
well, yeah,
It's been a while, isn't it?
it's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, I think things have improved. There's still a lot of risk out there, but I also think that, you know, it behooves us as we were leaders in sort of taking steps to protect our employees. It's probably also wise that we be leaders in taking steps to return to normalcy. And so at least for the sake of discussion, I would make the motion that we reopen the courthouse, and we'll say as of Monday the 15th?
Monday the 8th?
Well, we can do the 8th. I was going to give it a...
15th is a holiday.
Oh, then we'll do Monday the 8th. Oh, I'll say. And
Is that,
I'd leave the mask requirements in place for people coming into the courthouse.
That way it's a slow process, you know, still protecting.
Do we have a second on that motion? We have a motion and a second to reopen the courthouse to the public starting Monday the 8th. I have some guidelines that I kind of been working with through the health department, through Alan and Annette, through Chris and Crystal. You know, basically continued use of masks for employees and the public coming in. Continue social distancing when possible. Meeting rooms will be available for usage at the state guidelines. Encourage the public to utilize the county and department's website for online forms, and encourage them to continue to try to make appointments, arrangements before they come to the building. So continue that whole, you know, calling ahead of time, making sure that whoever's in that office that they want to come see is there, or if something could be sent to them and save them the trip. Ensure that adequate personal protective equipment is available, including disposable face masks for those entering the building without one, hand sanitizer for the dispensers, for offices, for employees, adequate cleaning supplies, and sanitizing supplies for maintenance and office departments. Encourage staff to do some cleaning on their own. Encourage our maintenance staff to continue their proper ongoing cleaning protocols that they have in place. And then as far as department heads, we encourage them to have their staff stay home when they're sick. Make arrangements for the staff to be able to work from home if needed. And then if stagger work schedules if necessary. And continue on that protocol and keeping people safe and healthy, and opening up the building to make things open for public availability. Any other discussion on opening up the building? Alan, you have anything? Chris?
It only makes logical sense with the numbers we have to set up the building. The only thing that we've seen, I guess, as long as they keep wearing masks. But we just got notified the other day that we're getting a shipment of 15,000 COVID tests because CDC is very, very worried about the English and the South African new variant that's coming out, and it's spreading fast, and it's spreading faster than the original COVID. So they've drop shipped a bunch of COVID tests. Right now, of course, people aren't showing up to be tested, but if we get a new group, we can always change back. We've done it before. but I think it's just logical now, with the numbers down, and, it's
John,
gonna
could
make
you
it
leave
easier
that
for
open,
people.
please? Thank you. Sorry, Alan.
That's okay. It just makes it easier for the public to get in to see us, and so far, the people that come in have been willing to wear their mask when they're up close, and so that's a good thing. We haven't seen any major problems.
Well, I think at our last meeting, we had made a motion to go ahead and get Chris to get some personal protective equipment, making sure that we had adequate supplies for employees, and that's going as well as can be expected, Chris?
Yeah, a little more than what's, we all know everyone's wanting the same product, and that's the hard part. So I did put an order in, and they said, well, we could do a week, and now they pushed me out to a 2-week reorder process. So we'll just have to work with what we got.
Yeah. Well, give it some time and we'll figure out what that burn rate is for supplies and then have a better understanding of what we need to order. So, any further discussion on the opening of the building? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Alan, would you like to give an update, since we're still on COVID, about vaccinations and, come on up if you wouldn't mind. That way it carries through to our,
All right. Well, we are, like I said, we're still testing every week on Wednesdays from 9 to 11. The last 2 weeks been pretty low numbers, 51, 56 people showing up, where our high was in the 300s. So people are tired of being tested, but we will still keep going and see what happens with this variant. That's a big issue now in all of our meetings with the CDC and the state. As far as vaccinations go, our first week was a little bit of a mess over in the next door in the Memorial Building. But we sat down right after that and made some changes, and they worked out very, very well. We included the armory and put sheriff's space 6 feet apart, and we have a long winding road for them to get into the Memorial Building so that we have room for more people. That's what it's all about. And we're keeping the doors closed till right before 11 o'clock. And so that they don't have to wait. One of the biggest complaints was that they were waiting. The first day we had it over there, people were here at 8 a.m. and we didn't start till 11. And then they were all clustered in the front of the Memorial Building. We didn't come down. They didn't know they were there. We didn't come down till 10 o'clock. So and it was just wasn't good. It was a mess. So that's why we changed that. And so far it's worked very, very well. We got a lot of good comments from people last week that it went fluidly. They came in and it all went very, very well. The other good thing that we have had so far is that we haven't had any major reactions. We do have the medicine right there. The nurses, if somebody has an anaphylactic reaction, they've had them from across the United States and the world. So we're ready for that, but we don't need to see one. But so far so good. This Thursday we will be, we have at least 300 vaccines available, and it'll be 75 years and older, and then 65 to 74 with 2 previous health conditions. So we're down to that 65-year-old mark. And of course, any EMS people that didn't get their first shot the first time, we are starting to give our second shot to the EMS people. And we separate them into 2 different lines, and we found a little heck about that, but it's necessary for that second person. There's no paperwork involved for the second shot. So we put them in a different line, they go right through and they're out, which causes some consternation with people, but that's the most expedient way to do it. And so that's kind of where we're at right there. Our staff is holding up pretty good, especially since we started to give shots. They seem to be a little bit more reinvigorated. We're kind of doing what public health is supposed to do, prevention instead of just testing. You know, we're all about prevention. So it's brought their spirits up a little bit, and but they are tired. It's a lot of work. Any specific question?
I have a couple things that I'd like to point out. According to the North Dakota Department of Health's dashboard, a little over 1,800 Ramsey County residents have been administered a first vaccination, so a little over 13% of our population have received the first one. A little over almost 5% have received the second dose. So we're moving forward in that. And congratulations to the health, Alan and his staff and the other providers within the county that are administering shots and getting those doses graded. I want to thank the Ramsey County employees and staff within the building that agreed to park somewhere else on Thursdays. That was one of the complaints initially that first week, was limited parking space in front of the building for some of the elderly and mobility impaired individuals. So I had, Alan and Annette had asked me if I'd send out an email to the employees, and I did, asking them on those days if they park as far away from the building as possible. Everybody did as far as I could see last Thursday. Everything worked great. We worked with the city to come through, and they put cones up, similar to like they did when the ice fishing tournament was held up there at the Memorial Building. They blocked off parking spots. And they even brought their sander truck up and sanded those locations so people wouldn't slip on the ice, which was really a very nice thing to do. And talk to Mr. Grafsgaard over at the city offices and the street department, and they're going to make sure that they do that on a weekly basis. But thank you, Alan, and your staff for that, and the assistance with the North Dakota National Guard and all true health staff, and I think any public opportunity we have to thank the Levers family for their incredible contribution of use of their Levers South location. The health department's been inside there since about October, I think, when the weather turned cold. Before that, they were utilizing the parking lot. So, thank you to the Levers family.
We appreciate them very, very much. We even offered, when we got a little extra COVID money, we offered to pay them for the use of the building. They say, use your money someplace else. I thought that was exceptional. The other thing I'd like to mention is Theo and Annette Gross is up for that paper that puts out, the best of the best. Annette is on that, so you can go in and vote for it. Appreciate it. I think she'd like that if we can do that. But yeah, we really appreciate all the backup we've had from the county, the city, and Levers. Anybody we work with has been exceptional, which is good to see. They're coming together in the community. I have to mention All True Clinic starting next week. That way, they're going to bring their allocated doses over to us, along with a couple of their nurses, and help us out. They're going to bring their doses over here. They just thought it would work better with this facility where we've got it set up. They were here last week helping us. We're impressed on how it was set up. So that's a big deal. The hospital is also taking appointments. So I think we're getting out as many shots as we possibly can. I'm hearing that Thrifty White Drug may be getting COVID shots directly from the federal government. I don't know the exact date, but that is supposedly coming. They're getting their own allocation right from the federal government. So all the Thrifty White Drugs. So that may be another possibility to get a COVID shot. So we're hoping to get as many people vaccines as possible, anybody that wants one, as fast as possible.
So, I have two quick questions, but first of all, I'd like to echo all of Commissioner Fritz's thanks. You know, you guys are doing remarkably well given the circumstances. The two questions that I had are, based on what you're seeing, if current vaccination rates continue at, at this sort of pace or even faster, how long, in your view, will it be before Ramsey County reaches herd immunity?
I'm probably looking fall, at this rate right now. We've been promised more, if we get more vaccines, we can give those shots pretty fast. So we could bring that back, to the middle of the summer.
So at the earliest, sort of most optimistic, maybe the middle of the
That's
summer?
a lot, something like that. But otherwise, it's going to be, if we're going at this rate, 300 is not that many, okay? It's going to take a while. But if we get upwards, 500 to 1,000 each time, and maybe we have to make another day during the week. I would be happy to do that. Like I said, we want to give those shots as fast as we can.
Perfect. Second question that I had was, I'm a little bit behind on reading up on the variants out of England. I know that there's some worry that they spread more easily if they're not so much more deadly or anything.
Yeah.
The current vaccines that we have are effective.
So far, that's what we're being told by the CDC.
Because that's the worry with an mRNA virus, is that it can just mutate and you're off to the races again. But up to this point, it appears that it is effective.
Yes, that's what we're being told. Yeah, especially with the 2-dose vaccines we have. They're still looking at the single doses vaccines that are not quite out yet, like AstraZeneca and a few of those. So we'll see what happens. We get more vaccines types. Going to be a little bit more of a bureaucracy to go through all that stuff, keep separate. But what we want is more vaccine, and if that helps, we'll take it.
That's just one question. Up to this point, we've had first responders, we've had 75 plus things like that. How has that been working out in terms of people being able to, are they scheduling an appointment or are they coming in as they want? Or, so are we getting too many people and then we have 300 doses and 500 people show up? Or?
We haven't had it quite that bad. I did that enviable job of standing out front and asking people 75 plus, and they say yes, and away they go. But if they say no, but I have all these conditions, it's not a fun job, but so far that's what we've been doing is turning them away. We haven't had that much extra. Matter of fact, we put out the call and gone outside of our parameters right at the last hour. Like I say, we want this vaccine used up once we get it here. So we put out the call and we had some 65-year-olds come right at the very end last week, just so we could get rid of open vials. And that worked out. Of course, that upset some people. But you can't make everybody happy all the time. We don't have appointments. It's first come, first served. And so maybe that contributes to some of the longer lines. But we move them as fast as we can. There was people standing outside last week for a short period of time. Once we opened the door, we got that whole line in just like that. So that we hope will be how it goes. Once we get a lot more vaccine, we will expand the hours, and then have another day. The radio station, KBTY, has been fantastic about putting out information to the public. We have it on our website, we have it on our Facebook page, and we also give it to all through in the hospital so that we can kind of correspond with what's going on. It's been working pretty good so far. We just, the public health, we want as many people showing up as we possibly can. You have to, we've only had to turn away, you know, a couple dozen,
And
so.
the only reason I ask is that, you know, 65 plus, 75 plus,
Yep,
you know, not that 65 plus people don't work, obviously,
Oh, no.
but when we get down into that younger age population, then are we gonna have 500 people show up on a Thursday to get shots, and there's only 300 to 200 of them left work to come get a shot?
right,
And
I understand.
there isn't anything backing it up. So my main question was, is there anything as a commission or anything we can do to help? Whether it's some type of I don't know if there's software out there, that you can do queuing systems, things like that, to help you guys so you don't have that problem where you have to start turning a bunch of people away. Anything we can do to try to help out things.
Yeah, there is the one that the state put out there, was grabbing new software.
Yeah.
There's lots of problems, and when we first started testing out at high school in the summertime, we went to use the software that the state had to register everybody, pre-register, which works great now. But at that time, people were waiting for half an hour, the line wasn't moving, and wow, they started pulling out the line and going, and that's what happened. We put it away, the guard put it away, and we started doing it by paper, and we got them through real fast. After that, we didn't have many problems, maybe a 5 or 10 minute delay, but they have a system called PrepMod where they can pre-register. But they've been having issues with it all along. A lot of the trees drop. Normal stuff with those kind of applications. So far, this has worked well. What we would do is add days if we get a lot more vaccine, instead of trying to jam it all in one day. Different hours, evening hours, you know, and we're not starting till 11. We can start earlier. We want to get the people to be able to come, especially once you get into that working public. We want to be able to make it easier for them to get in, not harder. So, yeah, that's what we're doing about that.
Yeah, even if it's something as simple as part-time manpower or something like that to help schedule, you're gonna get your shot between 1 and 2 o'clock, and you're gonna lock in a certain amount of people, that's, you know how many you can get done in that.
If it gets real bad, we can do that. I appreciate that help. The state also has these teams pre-made. They're using one of the teams in our rugby office, because they're giving shots on Friday, and they got a few more than they can handle all by themselves. Their clinic is also helping, their clinic is helping us, and we're sending some people from here, but these groups that are ready to go, the nurses and everything out of Bismarck, we call them in, they will also be helping. So there's we're kind of looking at the future for more vaccine, so we're ready for it.
There's a reason we're doing so well getting them in ours. You guys have a plan.
And I know I brought this up to you, it's basically the same thing that Adam just said at the district health meeting, but I have gotten a call about people wishing that they could pre-register.
Yep.
So if at some point in the future you can adopt that, it does work, I think that would be beneficial, but I already mentioned
We're
it.
keeping that as an option. Yep. And it takes a long time. And so that's why we haven't done it so far, but we may have to if we get a lot of vaccine. You're right. So, okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alan.
Yep.
Any other discussion on COVID-19?
Boy, I'm really excited when that drops off on the, that's the only thing I want to have.
The only thing I think we should discuss is, I don't remember how we made the motion at the last meeting, but the city did drop their mask mandate last night.
Yep.
So for the sake of continuity between businesses inside and out of the city, inside and outside of the city, I think at least we should have the discussion so people don't get confused as to where things are required and where they're not.
Well, you know, if you remember right, ours was never a mandate. It was
No, it wasn't. Well, the mandates have never really been
Right.
mandates. I realize that.
So, you know, we could continue on with the resolution supporting or encouraging the usage of masks. You know, and it's basically similar to what the city ended up doing last night.
Okay, so they did do something else.
They took a mask mandate off, but yet they put on a recommendation of using masks, you know, and still with the understanding that that's one of the best, easiest ways to prevent virus spread. If people's wondering why I'm not wearing one, it's because Candy said I wasn't being able to be heard through it, so. But it's something that's keeping kids in school, it's keeping activities going, it's keeping businesses open. Until we get that, build up that herd immunity, I think it's probably a wise decision to continue doing it.
Whether we have it as a problem mandate, it is still up to the schools if they want to have it. It's up to the businesses, whether we say yes or no.
Right.
If I own a business and I don't want you to come in there without a mask, I can ask you to leave.
Yeah.
It's no different in the summertime, you can't go into a business without a shirt on. I mean, that's the way it is. If that business wants to have that, the school has a school board to decide if they want that. It isn't up to us.
Right. You know, I think continuing with our mask encouragement within our building, mask mandate, you know, for a lack of a better word, within our building, I think would be appropriate. Continuing on the same policy that we have as a county. You know, the light's at the end of the tunnel, and it's getting closer. But I don't know if, you know, we continue to live in this world where COVID exists. And until we have that herd immunity or the all clear from our medical community, I guess I would continue recommending it. You know, and those are the people that I've leaned on. You know, Alan and Annette, the doctors up at All True and Mercy Hospital have been great to work with. Lucas probably has worked with them on the Regional District Health Board. I know Dr. Wayman is on that, as well as others, medical professionals. And they continue to recommend and advise people to continue doing that. So I guess since ours doesn't have an expiration date, unless we want to take a different approach to it.
I'm not suggesting taking a different approach. I still think it's reasonable and prudent to wear masks until we get to that herd immunity point. I just want to make sure that we have continuity between what's occurring, because I mean, we are a trade area.
Sure.
90% of the people that live in Ramsey County live in Devils Lake or around Devils Lake or do business in Devils Lake. So I just want to make sure that we still are saying we encourage it, but we want to make sure that things are matched up basically.
Well, basically, it's not a mandate, it's an encouragement.
Yeah, it's an encouragement.
Yeah, and that's fine. I'm fine if we feel that our policy covers that. Fantastic.
And I haven't read through what the city approved or adopted last night, but Mayor Johnson had something after the discussion of to remove the mask mandate. He had something to come up with a mask recommendation. And I think it follows very closely to what we've had all along, kind of thing. And we never wanted to call it a mandate because it wasn't an enforcement type of an issue. It was more of a recommendation.
Well, the statement that, you know, we're trying to take a leadership role by example.
Right.
I do think that whatever we do, I want it to still be mandatory that masks are worn in this building. And we do have authority over that. And I want to make sure that we're protecting our employees. But otherwise, I totally agree with everything else. You know, I want to change the wording so that it says we support or encourage as opposed to, you know, any kind of implying that it's enforceable. That's fine.
That's what I was getting at. Yeah, I agree. The building should have it for the safety of all people that work in it. You know, but then along with the rest of the people in the health district around that way.
Well, I think the hope is that now that we're in this, we see the light at the end of the tunnel, that we're all kind of, I don't want to say used to it, but we're putting up with it. And we'll get through it here shortly, so hopefully everyone will continue to hunker down for the next few months, and we can get out, get some shots in arms, and we'll be through this hopefully by summer.
Well, the last thing I want to see is kids being sent home from school again, activities being canceled. things like that. So if we can do our part and help those activities remain, I'm all for it. So, anything else on further discussion? Martin, would you like to address the state's attorney's position? Martin Hallback, Assistant State's Attorney for Ramsey County. Welcome.
Thank you. I just found out that there was some discussion about when you were going to post position, how long you were going to be taken. I believe you will let me know until the end of the month. Okay. We're sitting with 900 cases a year. Right now, they're having to move cases over. There's no way I can personally handle that many cases. I'm sure I'm I believe that the village should be moved a little sooner. I think Larry Gottman had given you a recommendation, only keep me up for 5 days, because it's already been on so long. The other issue I was a little concerned about was I heard that you didn't put a sum certain on when that job was going to be posted at. And I think when people look at, am I right on that?
On what?
A sum certain on what the position would be posted at, like 69,000 or 75.
Right.
Okay. I don't believe a person looking at an advertisement will be
Oh, I agree with you.
without
100%.
knowing
We
what
left it
they're
open.
getting into. When
We
you
left
get-
it open and negotiable.
When you do go on something like that, people look at the number and they think, oh, I'm making this much, or I could make this much. But when it's open and they're busy, they're just like, eh. That's my thought. You can leave it negotiable, but I believe you should have a beginning number and everything.
I believe we did have a kind of a beginning number because we went off the step thing, wasn't it? The vertical, the step was in there.
I don't believe I've seen ads even that have just like an open, I don't even believe I've ever seen it where they just have an open. No amount now. I think you should come up with something. And I'm asking to have that moved up at least, I think, if you were thinking of the 13th or the 12th, closing at it is, don't leave it open that long. And then people could figure out what you want to do.
Our discussion on only opening up 5 days, we did already 2 weeks. We got one applicant, didn't meet the qualifications. We do 5 days, and we don't get an applicant, are we gonna end up leaving it open to the end of the month anyway? So then we're starting all over again. So our census was, we leave it to the end of the month so that we have more room, so that we get applications. And that's kind of what we decided.
All right, and if we left it open 5 days, we'd have to call a special meeting, you know, even if there were no applicants, we would need to at least have a special meeting to reopen the advertising again.
Well, what's the soonest you can do about having a special meeting?
Is that 12?
12th would be the closing date, and then we meet down the 16th.
That would be much better, from my perspective.
Okay.
And we took out 5 years of experience also.
I know because people didn't want to know. I mean, with that much experience in that state, people don't know what to apply. And I don't think, well, we'll see how many applications we get. But I think it, from my perspective, it would be better put it as well. I don't think you're gonna get any more people like you have. People, if they're looking for a job, are gonna see what you posted, have to make that decision of whether they want to apply. They're not gonna sit on it any longer than 4 weeks or so.
True.
Are you in favor of us leaving it open as far as experience and
Yes,
salary?
but I don't think you're gonna get anybody with 5 years experience.
Right, I agree with you there.
So I believe Carrie kind of put on an outline for you.
Yep.
And she thought of it very carefully, we both thought of it together. So that would be right.
Yeah, and
If
we
you wanna leave it at the 12th, I'm okay with that, but moving it to the end of the month, really kind of crunches. You know,
And we adopted the outline in terms of the changes as presented. the only thing we changed was, it was leaving the salary depending on experience. And then we also based it off the step system. So I guess the one thing we could do is we could list the different step system, the bottom end of the step and the top end of the step, so that way there's the dollar figures in there. So people know that it's gonna be somewhere between this, and it's all gonna be negotiable depending on experience.
I believe that would be better.
I mean, that's a simple change that basically doesn't change anything of what we've already said to do. And in terms of, I understand where you're coming from in terms of the time frame as well. Obviously, we just wanna make sure that we get applicants, so we at least have some options when it comes down to it. I would hope, we said we had, what, one person apply. I would hope that the person that applied, now that we've opened up the parameters, would reapply. I don't know who that individual was, but I would hope that they'll reapply now that we have changed the parameters on that position. And maybe we'll get a few more people that didn't apply because these parameters were on the position.
And that was the biggest reason why we dropped the years, because the individual that applied didn't have the years, so we didn't open it that way, we hired the individual. Now someone can come back and say, well, that isn't the way it was advertised.
So, Martin, any other recommendations for us?
No, sorry.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
With that, do we want to make some changes? And leave things as they,
Well, I guess at the meeting, if something goes wrong, we can reopen it. I mean, if it makes sense, I guess, open it till the next meeting and then try again if there is still problems.
so adjust the closing period to the 12th? And
Let's go to the 15th. You can get it done the day before, right, the next meeting. Don't work.
Monday's a holiday.
Right.
But is Tuesday enough time?
So,
Oh, but
Well,
then there'd be no mail.
There'd be no physical mail.
I think you'd be better off leaving it on that Friday.
Friday the 12th?
Well, so there's no, you're saying no physical mail on the 15th?
Right. President's Day.
Okay. But we don't meet on the 16th until the evening.
Right.
Oh, is it evening?
Yeah, we have
Yeah,
an evening
that's what
meeting,
it's
so we could leave it
asking.
open till the 15th, and then you could procure all,
Yeah.
put all the documents together that morning for
That
us.
would
That
work.
would leave at least a few more days then, if that's reasonable. Because we'll get the mail on the 16th, and anybody that, is applying is ready to drop off and stuff. Or do it electronically, so we're gonna know who's already applied if we're missing some documentation of that.
So you're thinking the 15th, right?
So even if they mailed it the 15th, there is no mail, or nothing with the mail system on the 15th, so we wouldn't get it till,
Well, they should reach out and contact.
Wednesday, Thursday.
Bristol and make sure that if they're interested, they'll apply electronically or no. We should know their intentions.
Whenever I'm sending the bill, I make sure it's got a leader.
Yeah.
Because you just don't, so.
I figured. See what happens.
Then the salary part, how do we want to state that then? Do we want to start maybe at, I don't know, I don't think you want to start at 80,000 people for this position. You're going to be looking at that. I would go more up to the 90. 7 years on your step system is around 91,000 roughly. I don't know, I kind of want to start that, or if we want to even look at the step system.
We're throwing the 5 years of experience out, right? Not put that in there. And what was the salary you were talking, Krista? 91 top?
What's up?
91,000 for the top money?
For that would be roughly 7 years of experience with our step system.
Okay.
It starts around 91, it's like 90,888.
So,
I think the best thing to do is leave that salary open, leave the experience open. We got lucky last time, like we talked earlier, first year state's attorney, and I believe everybody was pretty happy with it, you know, community.
But like Martin had said, that if there's not a salary listed, people may just pass that by without even taking a serious look at it, because they don't know where they even be, you know. And, you know, I think having a starting salary or a starting point would certainly give
How much you wanna raise this one then? The one we have on our sheet, $6,400 a month. How much you wanna raise that? Couple? 3?
I would
3,000?
I would put that top end at our starting point.
We're gonna go up,
I would
not even $600?
I would start it at 86 grand. Is that 70, what is it, 7208? Is that what that is?
That's 86,496.
Okay. Yeah, how about we start at the top end that we've got listed with, we'll say that number plus negotiable depending on experience. Is that fair? Is that
That gives a starting point.
Would that be work, Marn?
I would think so.
And we're closing on the 15th, that's part of that motion then.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay,
It's all
I'll
motion,
second it.
it's all whatever, let's just do it.
Anybody that's interested can just watch our video, I guess.
They'll know exactly what we're thinking.
They'll know we're down
Put
desperate.
that in the thing. Watch the video. Please apply.
So we're changing, Commissioner Wakefield is moving to change the original motion.
Right, to reflect the top line dollar amount, whatever that was, 7208, and then to list it as plus negotiable depending on experience. And to change the closing date from the end of this month to the 15th.
Do we have things covered, Crystal? Think so?
I know that, I was just thinking about that comment that we visited about yesterday, if we want to leave it at monthly, or if it looks better as an annual
Well, it
salary.
may-
Does anybody have any feelings about that?
The lawyer, they should do it.
Well, they should be able to comply as well. Marn, do you have a recommendation to have an annual salary or a monthly?
For that starting point,
I would defer to you what you usually see.
we usually have been putting it out monthly, but I know somebody had made the comment to Jeff about it might look better as an annual salary, it might stick out a bit more.
People can add, if they can't add.
Yeah, they can add, yeah.
Okay,
Right after people were looking for
I
it,
think
they
if
can't
it's
add
monthly,
together.
they'll figure it out.
Okay.
okay. Sounds good. Motion and a second to adjust the job description for the state's attorney position with a closing date of February 15th. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you so much for coming down, Mark.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And thank you for, you and your staff for everything you're doing up there.
Appreciate that, thank you.
All right, well, of course, appointment to fill the vacancy on the Garrison Conservancy Board with the passing of Mr. Pearl in late December. We need to appoint and fill his position. And I think our early January meeting, we asked for letters of interest. We have received 3 of those. One from Mr. Kyle Blanchfield, one from Mr. John Martinson, and one from Mr. Joel Chickus. I think the fact that we have 3 interested people is extraordinary. It's one of those boards that has a big learning curve with all the different projects, and I things that the Garrison Conservancy District dives into. With not a lot of fanfare, recognition, or pay. They meet 4 times a year, unless you become on the executive committee, and then it's 8 times a year. And up for re-election in 2022, I believe. So Phil fulfilled his term for Mr. Pearl's position. Any questions on the letters of interest, on the nominations?
One thing I'd like to say, John Pearl, he's seen the devastation that the water has caused. He was on the bottom end of it.
And certainly Kyle brings a lot of that history with him. His family being right on the shores of Creel Bay. He has artifacts and documentation of his grandparents walking across Creel Bay when it was dry. And then the family business that Kyle is a part of now, and there are several relocations of their facilities to higher ground as the lake grows up. So I certainly think that Kyle brings a very interesting perspective to the table. Understanding the nuances of water law goes a long ways, and that's something that maybe John brings to the table, with his experience on the county water board. Although a lot of differences, but some similarities.
I make a motion we nominate Kyle Blanchfield to be on the Garrison Board.
We move that we nominate Kyle Blanchfield to fill the Garrison Conservancy Board. Is there a second?
Second for discussion. Looking at the applications that we have here, one of the guys that filled out the resume. What I can see on his resume, he has 44 years of experience being in the Lake Region area, so I don't think throw that out, just saying that one has more experience than the other. You had said, Kyle grew up in this area, so he can say that Joel has it. With his experience with the federal side of the house, that's a lot of federal with it. So he works with all the federal policies on his camp and everything. I've worked with the individual, and I don't want to steer that one way or the other. I wouldn't say he doesn't have experience with this. I'm sure Kyle does too, along with all the stuff that he has to go through here and do that for this.
Great.
And granted, this is just getting appointed, the individual would have to run again. Was it just finishing up in 2 years?
Okay, and I think at that point, I think anybody can put their name in, submit it to the ballot. It's a 4-year commitment.
I'm sure we have the option of passing on making an appointment and let them run for the position also.
You know what, I don't know if we want to go 2 years without a representation on there, is that what you're saying?
We have that option.
We do have that option. You know, seeing how Ramsey County gives a full no to that organization, I think having some sort of representation on there.
I'm not recommending
Yeah.
that option.
And that's the tough part about it, is we have three very, I think, capable candidates that are willing to put their name on there, which is commendable. You know, and I think all of them bring a little different perspective to the table. A little different representation, maybe, and I do like the fact that where Kyle's located and what he and his family have gone through, not only himself over the past 30 years, but the history that his grandparents had with that place right on the shores of Devil's Lake, and seeing both sides of the lake brings a lot of perspective to it. Joel does as well, growing up in Green Walking. He, you know, brings a lot to the table. That community has certainly seen the rise and fall of Devil's Lake as well. John, you're up on top of the hill on Ramsey County, and we appreciate you putting your name in. But I know you also enjoy recreating and fishing and everything else that the lake has to offer, and bringing maybe a farmer perspective to the board. And I appreciate you coming in and putting your name in. Anything that you'd like to add, John, or questions?
No, the only thing I would, according to comment on Ed's comment there, Jeff alluded to there's a learning curve to this board, and Jeff gave me a copy of the minutes of the last meeting, and there's a huge learning curve to this. So I would not recommend, even just as someone that has interest in it, to not get that position filled, because even if there is a changeover, at least you have someone that gets some experience to learn what's going on in that. And I'll give you the reason that I actually put my interest in was to take and be the best representative for Ramsey County that you can have, because you need someone that's going to speak up to try to make sure that your money is being utilized in this area too. And I do not know Mr. Chickens, but I do know Mr. Blanchfield, and I think he got two other very good representatives or people that are interested.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I'd like to take the opportunity to thank everybody for putting their name in. Kind of takes guts to put your name on a piece of paper.
Especially not knowing what you're getting into.
Well, and what I appreciate is that Mr. Markinson actually came today, in case we had questions.
That was by coincidence, if you look at the water.
This doesn't necessarily apply to this, but not necessarily, but most of the time we're begging people to fill positions.
Yeah.
But I think it would be beneficial, not necessarily today, but to have some type of formalized process when we're doing an appointment like this on how we're going to do it, whether it's, you know, you get 7 applicants and you narrow it down to 3, and then you have a short interview to see what they would do when they represent you, or, you know, kind of like an interview process, just so we have some type of a way to make a decision on who we want to appoint. Instead of just going, well, that person, I guess, you know, just so we have some kind of, I think a formalized process at some point would make some sense. And I'm not saying that has to happen today, but I'm just, something I've been thinking about.
Well, I think that that's especially true given the track record of appointees becoming incumbents getting reelected,
Yeah.
which isn't a problem. I mean, there's no problem with that in theory. The problem is that you end up in a situation where the county commission has basically shot from the hip and created all sorts of local government positions that should have been free elected positions. You know, that's the hard part, and that's why I sort of agree with Adam in that way.
I just wanna make sure that we, you know, you do your due diligence to put the right person in the position, that's all.
Well, maybe that's something that we need to spell out a little bit clearer, is what we're asking for.
Yeah.
And, you know, because we weren't specific, we just asked for a letter of interest. And we got, you know, 3 different variants of a letter of interest.
That's something that we're begging for a letter of interest, that's my point, is we don't know what we're gonna get when we ask, so.
We didn't ask individuals to come in, but John was here for another purpose, so he was here. You know, I'm sure if offered, I think the others may have come in and been available to answer some questions as well. So I don't think that should rule anybody out or be in favor of anybody either, you know, because it wasn't anything that we specifically asked for. So with that, do we want to vote on the motion? Do we want to? Now, we do have a motion and a second on the table to appoint Mr. Blanchfield to the position of on the Garrison Conservancy Board. Any further discussion? If not, I guess we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So, thank you, John, for coming in.
Thank you for consideration.
Appreciate it. We certainly want to thank our other applicant as well, Mr. Chickus, for sticking his out and putting his name on the line. And we will inform the Garrison Conservancy District our appointment. Next item on our agenda is the Northern Plains Resource Conservation and Development Council. This is appointment and approval of the 2021 dues of $300. I think we had a discussion on this last meeting that we would appoint somebody to that position.
Mr. Chair, I've got a few answers to some questions that were raised. As far as term length goes, there is no term length except for what we choose it to be on our end. They meet quarterly, generally in January, April, July, and October. And they've been holding meetings over Zoom, but otherwise generally we'll hold meetings in businesses around Devils Lake area.
Do you have anybody in mind that would?
They want a commissioner? No.
They don't care. We, it's just because we paid, well, half up to this point, at least, because we have to decide if we're gonna make it quick. Because we pay, we can have anybody, it can be a commissioner, or it can be someone from the public.
Who was our rep, Dennis?
We didn't have one.
We don't have a rep. Dennis is the rep for the Soil Conservation District. Because that's our member as well. He does some interesting work with cover crops, forage type stuff. It's some interesting stuff that goes on.
I suppose the most logical place to start is, are we approving paying the continual membership? Is that what I'm seeing on the agenda?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion, we pay the membership fees.
Second.
Right. Okay.
We ever pay the membership before we put somebody on the board?
It's been moved and seconded that we approve being members of the Northern Plains Resource Conservation and Development Council and pay their 2021 dues of $300. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Now the appointment of a member. Something you want to tackle at this meeting? You want to ask for letters of interest again? Or just, we have a volunteer?
Do we have volunteer?
Somebody can volunteer?
Am I being volunteered? Is that what I'm saying?
You wanna be on there, Adam?
I'd be willing to do it to learn.
I'll make a motion, we, Adam. Second.
Moved and seconded that Commissioner Lightfon be our representative on the Northern Plains Resource Conservation and Development Council. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Moving on to new business, State Fair delegate. State Fair meeting was postponed from November to February 10th. I have,
You want a commissioner on here or not?
well, it doesn't have to be. I was the State Fair delegate or volunteered for that position back in, I don't know, October when we decided November's meeting got canceled. We plan on doing one next week. Doesn't jive with my schedule. So we can reappoint, we can appoint a commissioner if somebody would like to go. I have talked to Beth Black about attending, and
I have been attending, when we had our board meeting, and Darren Wilcox was gonna check the schedules and myself. I can't go, otherwise I would, but I haven't heard of Darren and Neil, I know Connie.
well, Connie is our delegate, so she goes automatically. Usually there's a member from the fair board that goes, that's appointed from the fair board, and then the commission appoints somebody to represent the county.
Connie always goes because she's actually on the state fair board of directors.
Yeah. And that's something that's not up for re-election this time, is our district or delegate. And I think it's a 4-county delegate that Connie represents besides Ramsey County. I think it's at Towner, E.B. Pierce, I'm not sure.
What are we talking about?
Connie Hanson,
Connie.
yeah, is our Ramsey County.
Yeah, she's very good.
State Fair delegate.
Ramsey County gets a lot of exhibits at the state fair. They're one of the larger counties.
Well, I think part of that comes down to too, is we have such an active 4-H program, that we just have so many kids involved, it's fantastic.
I kind of think it would be kind of fun, but I'm not volunteering.
Did Beth Black say she could do it?
I thought she was gonna check to see, I thought she did. I just talked to her yesterday and she was gonna get back to me, I wonder if she forgot.
Yeah, it's the 10th of February is the meeting.
So it's a week from tomorrow.
Yeah, that's not busy.
I agree with you.
Yeah, but I've been to it once, it's interesting.
Would you say, Blake?
I agree with you, I think it'd be a lot of fun too, it just doesn't not work with my schedule otherwise.
Yeah,
I've always enjoyed going. I've gone a few times for Ramsey County and it's always very interesting. But what the State Fair Board would like to know is who we decide. So your fair staffs look forward to serving North Dakota exhibitors, fair goers. Please let Renee or Shelley know if you'll be attending. If you're unable, your substitution must be approved in writing by the representing county commission who appointed you. So this was addressed in
Well, not to volunteer myself, but I would have to free time to go if needed.
So do you want us to check with Beth, or would you like to go as a commissioner?
Either way is fine. I can do it, doesn't.
Then we'll do what?
Okay? Good enough. Second? We have a motion and a second to approve Commissioner Wakefield to attend the State Fair annual meeting, February 10th.
just a word of advice, you should probably stop up in the 4-H office or county agent's office. And the last time they had a full fair, I don't know how many entries Ramsey County had and how many total entries they had for the state fair.
might have that fair book from last meeting I went to last year. It's incredible, yeah.
It's a full day affair, right?
Yeah. Well, no,
Oh, wait.
the meeting.
Oh, the meeting?
The meeting starts at 1 o'clock. You show up early, they'll serve you lunch, they have like a soup and sandwich buffet. They'll have lunch, and it's right in the FFA hall at the state All Seasons Arena.
Nominate my daughter.
Yeah, it's really pretty cool. So, moved and seconded, did we voted on this? I don't think so. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, Commissioner Wakefield. Homestead credit.
Move to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Any other visitors and delegations and addendums? I don't think so. Thank you. Do you have any reports on portfolios? Start on my left or right. Commissioner Wakefield.
Well, the only meeting that I've had recently was District Health, and you basically got all of that. Everything else seems like it's just chugging along. You know, I don't have a whole lot to report.
Commissioner Brown, anything?
Law enforcement, I missed a step last meeting. I said the siren sheriff for the Ramsey County sheriff for the siren project. I think I used 190 and then 65,000. So I missed a step there. 190 is the total 4 counties, I think, are close to it.
Well,
No, and then the city gets 150. So if you want to hear allocated to yours, go over there. Or see it. Other than that, I guess we have social service. I started on the new year, everything seemed to be all right for last year. And, I guess.
Commissioner Volk?
I guess we had a couple meetings with the lake access. We finally decided that it was good enough ice to start actually opening up the landings. They didn't want to do it prior, so that they weren't saying, yeah, it's okay, drive out there. And then the other thing was, we had talked about was the 3 landings that they want to put out for steps. Sounds like they're gonna move forward with the Heritage Fund grant. And then the fair board, we get already covered, they covered twice today with the annual meeting and then the achievement meeting. Lisa didn't have any.
I know Lisa said she's been busy with collections.
Yeah.
I think somewhere 51% or something like that.
Right. Said it's going pretty much on schedule as normal.
Right. She said these next couple of weeks will be extremely busy for their office. Usually it will be for, what's her, 15th deadline, right?
Right.
So, Commissioner Lightfon?
Social services, as I said, it was pretty straightforward. We have a couple of new representatives from Rolette County. Alex Elwood, who was on our board, is no longer commissioner up there, so the country is on the board, and then I think they were going to be appointing a new person from the public. So we have a couple of people from there. Other than that, the board is all structured the same. There's some legislative work, obviously, some of those fixes that are going to happen with the indirect costs and all those kind of things have been talked about. And luckily, Representative Weston's on our board, so he's up to date on those things, so he's going to help push some of those things, hopefully. Over at Devil's Lake, nothing too crazy going on. We've been looking at land use out in the industrial park area. We have an update out there in case people are things like that, take some look at that. And then just business type stuff. Nothing too crazy going on there. Right now, County Housing Authority, we had our executive director position closed on the 31st of January. We went through resumes yesterday, and we're hoping to interview finalists next week. So we're hoping to have a new director in place in the next couple of weeks after this. So that's the goal. And other than that, can't think of anything else. It's actually been fairly quiet.
Thank you. I don't have a whole lot. Been trying to keep up with the legislative session, and it's been NDACO Legislative Committee. I sit on that, and we meet every Friday at 2:30 virtually. There's several of us on there trying to keep track of all the bills that may or may not affect county government as the legislation moves forward. There was one DOCR for Department of Corrections that made it through committee to have DOCR pay for. Develop a contract with counties if their prisoners are in custody after, instead of being sentenced down to, or sent down to the state penitentiary, if they're in our county facilities and they're supposed to be at a state facility, then we're supposed to set up a contract with counties for that. Several different election bills going through the legislature. I'm sure Candy's been, her ears have been burning with that as she tries to stay on top of those committee hearings. Road and taxations. There's a gas tax bill that made it through the House portion of things, I think, and so some of that money come back to counties. There's a couple of bonding bills that are out there yet. Discussing one that's, they call it the majority party bonding bill. Representative Pollard is, I think, the major sponsor on that one. Governor Bergen had his bonding bill, and then the minority party had their bonding bill. They all had a little bit of different, they all have benefits of why they want a bonding bill, but a lot of legislation left to go. And if you here's some issues with water and water boards that are down there being discussed, and trying to stay on top of those as well. The legislative session, I don't know how our delegation was, but hats off to them for keeping their sanity. It's kind of all the way up. Now, I want to thank everybody for their attendance today, their patience with a long meeting, and I think with that, we could probably have a motion to adjourn. So moved. And a motion and a second to adjourn. The commission meeting is now adjourned. Thank you all for attending.